11th annual Gear of the Year.
Really?
Yeah. Did you know that?
No, man, it's been a while.
But I have to check every year. I forget.
It can't actually be the holiday season until we do that, right? It's postponed federally across all of Canada.
The new year actually waits until we record this.
Until we do this, yeah.
But for anybody tuning in for the first time, Jordan Drake of Petapixel and I have, for 11 years now, been talking about our favorite gear of the year when the year rolls over. They haven't all been video, so if anybody's like, where are all these old videos? They're just audio podcasts before. But
even on a separate podcast, it was that long ago. Yeah,
it's true.
Your original photography podcast
transcends space and time.
Totally.
Which is great.
We got to do it.
Good to have traditions, but that's a great transition to our first category. Can you tell I haven't recorded a podcast in a little while, sir? Oh, wait, no. So up front, I'll also, I didn't address in any of the podcasts, so I'll bring it up here, that the videos, I moved them back to the second channel. And this was after, I think I ran them on the main channel for about a year. And a lot of the inspiration was looking at you guys that on Petapixel, you're doing them both on the same channel. It's working out awesome. My podcast is less regular, less structured. And probably the biggest reason, like I'll be totally candid about it, is that I was having sponsors reach out and be like, we noticed some of your videos lately aren't performing well. I'm like, well, the podcasts always have less views than not always, but often have less views, less reliable views than the main videos. And it was sort of like driving my sponsorship rate down on the main channel. And I had hoped YouTube would have more separation options where like on one channel, there's some clarity of like, this is podcast, this is channel content. This is, and it didn't. So that's why we're back on channel number 2. But
I know they're not penalizing you anymore with having the long form content on there, which is great. Like we are happy to have everything in one place. But yeah, it's something you constantly have to explain whenever you're talking about your view numbers. You'll get some watch time, but those views,
sure, or even commenters. People would, they've watched the last couple of videos and then they watch this one. They're like, why is this so long? Where's the B-roll? This is boring. Yeah, exactly. Because they just click into it expecting a normal video. Anyway, that's not what this is. We're going to talk for a little while. But that transition I was talking about, let's get into it. First category, best tech product of the year. Jordan, what was your best tech product of the year?
Yeah, and this is something I really want to differentiate. So we've done like our best and worst with the whole Petapixel team, Chris and I together. These are just my personal experiences. So some of these are going to be obvious things, or even a couple of them came out the previous year or whatever. But these are things that are new to me that I'm excited about. And I was very skeptical for over a decade about the Apple Watches. But
late
this
bloomer,
year,
wow.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? I need to like actually track my movement. And I was using the phone, which does a terrible job of it. I would, be like washing the dishes and think I'm working out, or go for a long walk and there'd be no movement on it. So it's just like, you know what? I'd like to actually track it. And I've just found it, outside of just being a very accurate way to track everything, actually surprisingly useful. And I can leave my phone around a little more than I used to. When I'm in the house, a lot of the time will just leave it on a charging station or whatever. And if I get text messages or anything, they go to the watch. I know if I need my phone, but it's actually freed me up a little bit from that constant panic of just like, I have to have my phone with me at all times and be checking in on every little notification that comes through. It's actually been nice.
I always find that to be the best use case for me. The most utility I get out of the Apple Watch is wearing it around home, where I can leave my phone in the other room.
Yeah.
And I'm not missing notifications. That actually is a huge use case for me. I kind of wear it more at home even than when I'm going out. Like I've started not traveling with my Apple Watch actually, which is when I get the most steps in. So, I'm missing out on that metric, but it's the not having to bring another charger, not worrying about if my phone's charged during the day. Like I don't want to not have a watch when I'm traveling. So, it's definitely been in the rotation the whole time since Apple Watches have come out. But now it's kind of like it has its place in my life. It's not a full-time wear. It's these are the times I know that I want to put it on type things.
Yeah, well, and when they first came out, the original version, I was waiting for an elevator, and a guy very visibly like raised his hand over his head and checked the time extremely obviously that way, and that soured me on the entire device based on one guy like trying to show off his Apple Watch when they first came out. So I let that for a decade sour me on these products, but they're actually really nice and useful.
Well, also, which one did you get?
The 14. I didn't go all
good.
the way. I'm not doing anything too extreme. But the other thing I'll say is if I'm at the beach, man, just being able to like track my dive depth, this is now my game I play with myself. It's just, I'm going to go see how many meters down I can get today before I get a headache. Yeah.
I don't use my Ultra nearly that extreme. I mean, I like the Ultra because I just think it is the nicest design. I just think it looks the best, but I'm not going to push it to any limits, that's for sure.
It definitely inspired the look of the iPhone too this year. You can see a real similarity between the Ultra Watch design and the new iPhone Pros. So Apple seems to be going in that direction. But I like it. What's yours?
Well, I wanted to pick hardware for my best piece of tech because that's just more fun. Like, it's more interesting. And I just thinking about what has had the biggest tech impact on my life over the last year, I couldn't help but choose ChatGPT, which I think I've actually chosen in this category before the year it came out. I think that was the same choice, but it's just kind of reached a point where it has real utility now. Like, it actually does help me be a bit more productive, and especially in terms of like organizing my thoughts, it's not generating much of anything that shows up. Maybe the only things it generates is I'll tell it the title for a YouTube video that I'm thinking about, and I'll say, give me variations on that. So I can run A/B tests against, my title thought at first, and then other versions that explore different ways of getting people into the video.
Do you do A/B test on all of your videos now?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I usually both do a thumbnail and a title A/B test. Do you?
Yeah, we're doing it for the big videos right now. There's some where, it's just like, this is a blank review. But for the majority of the big camera launches, and especially podcasts too, we've been doing some ABs.
Well, I find it just takes pressure off of the thumbnail design too, or the title. It's like, okay, I don't have to agonize for hours over like, is this exactly the right one? And for anybody that doesn't upload to YouTube, basically it's like, when you do, YouTube will selectively show viewers 3 different thumbnails or 3 different titles and report back which ones received the best. I don't think it's just click through. I think it's like, how much did they watch after they clicked through?
Yeah, it's overall. Yeah.
Often I find there actually isn't a huge split between them. Like, it's rare that I get a difference bigger than like 5%, but when there is, then I take that as a signal to go with that. And if it's a small signal, then I just use the title I was going to use anyway. But yeah, so the other thought about how ChatGPT has been helpful for me, and I'm saying that one specifically because I just think ChatGPT is the best product implementation. All the others are good. Claude is good. Gemini is good. Like, these are, they're all smart, similarly smart at this point. But the Mac app is a huge part of it for me, that it is a native Mac app that works extremely well, and it syncs across to my phone. And it's just, they are the most product oriented of the LLMs, I think. So it's the one that I keep going back to. And the thought I had the other day is that what often the benefit is that as I'm talking back and forth with it, I end up just explaining myself with more clarity. So typically, if I'm trying to work through an idea, either I just think about it all and it would stay inside my head until I feel like I've resolved it, or I'd write in my notes app. And these are just point form notes to myself when I'm thinking about, a video I'm going to make, or just trying to clear my head about what my opinion even is. When I'm doing that with an LLM, I spend more time explaining myself, like as if it's another person, because I'm like, well, I need you to understand this if you're going to give me valuable feedback. And that process, without even reading the response, is often the most valuable part, that I need to be extremely clear about, what am I asking? Why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? And typing that in, that activity, is like half the battle sometimes. And then I just skim the response. My God, and I don't even care what you said. I just needed to work through that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting thing because we have a bit of a team with Petapixel. So I find a lot of the time the ideas really come together when I'm, explaining the idea behind something to my editor, or Chris and I are driving to location to go shoot something. But if you don't have access to that, because there's so many solo creators out there, I could see just having that process of kind of trying to explain where, what is the background and where are we trying to get to, could be really useful for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I think other people are using it more than I am even, but it's become an actual real tool that does make me more productive this year, which I don't think it was in previous years.
Right.
Next up, we've got Best App of the Year, and I like my pick for this one. I think I have a good one, but what's yours, Jordan?
I'm going to go with Affinity, actually, which is like...
Well, obviously we both like our pick because that's my pick too.
Oh, yeah. So I looked at it years ago and then re-downloaded it after the new decision to make it just free for everything except the AI tools to kind of check in and see if it is a good alternative to Lightroom. And I was very impressed with how far it's come. I think it was about 3 years ago that I looked at it last time. And it's much more responsive, a lot better optimized now. And for doing basic photo editing, like if I want to build a thumbnail, test some dynamic range and everything like that, it's absolutely a replacement for like Capture One. I would generally drop on for that. I did unsubscribe from Adobe, I guess a couple of years ago now. So I've been using Capture One, but I just don't find it super well optimized on the latest hardware, where Affinity runs really nicely. And the other great thing is I'm getting raw support very early. They were actually the first company to have Sony a7 IV support up and running with their new, however they're merging the images on their raw files there. So it seems very responsive, and it seems like they're taking a real lesson of, we're not going to make this free and really strip it down a lot. They're following the Blackmagic model of let's get a huge number of users, and the power users can pay a premium for a few tools, but we're going to be a real alternative to Adobe. And I think making it free and having intuitive tools is the easiest way to get there. And they've taken that course, and I feel like we should reward them for it because Adobe has had a real stranglehold on photo editing for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm never in the camp of Adobe haters, which a lot of is a growing camp constantly. I know I see how much people are frustrated with Adobe, and to me, I mean, I never even consider canceling it. Like it's not only at the center of a lot of my workflow, but I like it as an app. I think Photoshop is excellent, and I'll continue using Photoshop over Affinity. But the complete lack of competition in this market since computers were invented, basically since Photoshop started, there's just been one, really. So I want to see diversification of options. I think people should especially have high quality, affordable, or in this case, free options. Like that is amazing. It's very similar to the pressure that Resolve has put on, well, all the other video editing software, on Premiere and also on Final Cut Pro, that look, you can do all of this for free. Now you've got to justify paying for some of the other platforms. So I think Affinity is going to have that same kind of pressure, even though it's not as feature rich as Photoshop. I did a comparison video where I was going back and forth between them. The features are excellent. There's a lot of really great stuff in there, and seems like so are you actually using it for your primary pixel photo editing?
I mean, when did this news happen? About a month ago or something like that. I haven't had a major photo product review come through, and that's when I start really processing everything myself. But I've been using it quite casually, and to do some camera tests since it's arrived. And I just find it's always a struggle to jump on established software. It tends to, have its own workflow that's very ingrained that might not be intuitive, but I found it really straightforward to jump on. The big question for me is cataloging, and that's where I'm going to have to do a lot more work with it, because Lightroom is excellent for cataloging. Capture One was less so. So I wound up basically just doing all my file management myself. So it'd be great to see if Affinity fleshes that out to the degree I could use that software for organizing as well as just photo editing. But I'm going to need a few bigger projects. But just opening it up, jumping in quickly and playing around with it, I was just very surprised by how robust and like it feels like a complete package already at this point.
Yeah, I really love what they did with it. It does not replace Lightroom or Capture One at this point. You're still going to need something like that, I think, generally. And I also find its raw tools in image editing are not up to par. Like the response of, say, highlight recovery or, even what contrast and white balance does, it's like, it's not quite as thought through as Capture One and Lightroom to me. So that's, they've got work to do, but it's free and it's excellent. So.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend people just check it out.
It's free. Why not? Next big one. I like my winner of this category too. I got some good picks in here. This is best photo camera of the year. Again, this is another way we differentiate from the petapixel choices because you guys don't quite break it down in the same way, I think, right? So this is like if you're taking pictures and you don't care about video, what's the best camera that you used in 2025?
I'm going to say the Sony A7 IV that I just mentioned.
Nice.
And this might be a little bit of recency bias, but I really don't think so. I think there was a huge outcry over some missing video features on this that overshadowed what an incredibly huge step forward this is for photography. Because the A7 IV was nice that it was the highest resolution camera in its class with 33 megapixels, which I think is a real sweet spot there. But it was a very slow camera. I didn't get the latest autofocus support from Sony with their little AI chip on there. So it was always lagging a little bit behind their current offerings, which is frustrating because this is their mainstream full frame camera. Their do everything jack of all trades camera. So just stepping the autofocus up there makes a huge difference to it. But then moving over to that new, much faster, partially stacked sensor means like the old camera, you could shoot 6 frames per second, lossless compressed, which is like DSLR days kind of frame rates. Now we're up to 30 frames per second with autofocus tracking on that. So it's really in like that higher end sports camera kind of area now. And then the other big thing is when we move to faster cameras, historically across the board, we've seen the image quality gets a little bit worse. And Sony and Panasonic are the two companies who have figured out a way around that. We don't know the exact process yet because no one will tell us anything, which seems crazy. Like, why wouldn't these camera companies want to shout from the roof? Like, we've actually improved image quality for the first time in maybe 10 years, and they've done that. So yeah, you're getting a lot of dynamic range with these cameras when you're shooting the mechanical shutter. Very fast burst rates, very capable video performance as well. So it's just incredibly well-rounded. And if I were grabbing a photo camera right now, this would be my pick.
Here's my take on why people were hating on the Sony A7 IV, because it's weird to me. I mean, I saw it, I was like, this looks great. And I'm not shooting Sony right now. I haven't even reviewed one for a little while. But I think part of the negative response is that we got used to Sony releasing so fast and being the first to do so many things, right? We had like a decade where Sony went from last place, like the camera you'd make fun of your friends for buying, to the leader, like pushing features to the cutting edge and, having the best autofocus and fastest response times and lowest light performance and all these things. That it was the best and the best and the best and moving quickly, and you couldn't even keep up with the releases. Then all of a sudden they started to plateau a little, like, okay, we've got most of the features we need, and the release schedule really slowed down. So the wait was longer than usual, and then I think that gave people time to imagine some much bigger jumps, like, oh, this camera is going to change everything. Yeah. And they were let down by the difference between what they imagined and then the reality of an amazing camera. So
yeah,
I haven't tried it yet, but it looks great.
Well, that's our job, I think, is to kind of give people that perspective in a lot of ways. And yeah, I think if you just broke it down as like, the autofocus is significantly better. It's got 5 times the burst rate, shooting lossless compressed images, the best image quality in its class. Like, yeah, I'd like a little nicer viewfinder, but what else do you want, basically? And I think we need to look at it that way. But yeah, it's shockingly capable. And I keep going back to the fact that if I were starting from the ground up, like Sony just has access to all those great third-party lenses. Like we had lenses from Viltrox that are in the running for Lens of the Year this year. And then Sigma is just absolutely cleaning up. So if you're looking at the camera lineup, it's like L-mount and E-mount have those great lenses. And I think the most well-rounded camera from either of those mounts is the Sony A7 IV. So it's a great choice. Yeah.
My pick for best photo camera of the year is a little crazy. I mean, I don't think most people will buy one.
My eyebrows
but
are
I just
up.
can't help it. So it's the Hasselblad X2D2, which is a photo-only camera. And I definitely have to disclose from the get-go that Hasselblad did send me one. So, I worked with them on the release of it. I would know a lot less about this camera otherwise because, it's a very expensive camera. So again, like this won't be a top seller. This is not going to be like the Sony A7 IV because it's much more specialty. It doesn't do any video, but the way it does photography is so excellent that I just can't ignore it. They effectively solved the autofocus problems of medium format. Like it's just a non-issue anymore. The burst speeds are quick enough that I kind of just keep it in burst mode most of the time and treat it like I would any other mirrorless camera. I'm not worried going into a situation if it's going to be able to keep up. And again, I don't shoot sports. I don't shoot really high action, but this is, people walking towards the camera, moving around a lot. I need critical focus and it hits it. It works. Along with 100 megapixels, 16-bit images, giant sensor, some very impressive lenses like the new 35-100 is the fastest
Chris
medium
loves
format
that lens.
Yeah, zoom lens out there. So even though it's like it's a little it's at the top of the range, it's not going to be my pick for everyone to go buy because it's also it's heavier than most. It's actually maybe the biggest problem. Like other than that, it's just a big camera and putting it in your not for medium format, but if you're compared to mirrorless camera, obviously it's going to take up a lot more space, especially the lenses. But it just really is excellent. I just want to make sure Hasselblad gets their kudos for like pushing themselves. And, I think coming back from a phase where they were kind of uninteresting, like maybe they were starting to die a little bit. And I definitely think they're making a great comeback.
I did review the X2D, not the version 2, the one that came out about 4 years ago. And I kind of came up to it with like, look, I can work with this. I'm willing to deal with a lot of the limitations to have access to that leaf shutter in medium format. I shot a lot with strobes when I tested that. And that was great. But yeah, it did feel like you were making a lot of compromises where I haven't spent as much time with the X2D2. We actually had a very short window with it. But yeah, my impression from Chris and everything like that is, yes, you've got a full featured camera now that's very usable, but still has those benefits. If you want fast sync speed in medium format, you're either buying a phased DSLR or grabbing the Hasselblad. And the Hasselblad, if you look at it that way, is actually shockingly affordable.
Next up, what is your absolute favorite hybrid camera of the year, meaning best at shooting both photo and video?
Yeah, here's where things get a little trickier because I think this is it's the best in class video camera in a lot of ways, but I haven't used it as extensively for photo, but it's the Panasonic S1 II, which I think it's dealing with that same perception issue that I talked about with the A7 IV. I think if this was called the S1H2, people would be over the moon about this. Just looking at it as like a video first camera. So essentially they took the internals from the S1 and moved it to a partially stacked sensor, but added all the video capabilities they've been throwing on things like the GH7 over the last few years. Every imaginable record format, you really have to streamline that because you'll be scrolling for like 45 seconds to go from the bottom record mode to the top. But it'll do anything that you throw at it. It's like if there's a new lens I need to test, I know I've got a record mode that's going to work with it. The autofocus is significantly improved with this guy as well. I do find like if I have an indicator on a subject, they're generally in focus all the time with that. It's not as robust for tracking as what Sony and Canon are doing, but with a little bit of operation, I've found it's actually reliable now. So I do use the autofocus on this about half the time, but it's just an absolute workhorse. I've never had an overheating issue with it. The files grade incredibly well. If someone's like, hey, I need raw footage, you can record it internally on it, which was a bit of a drawback to the Panasonics before, and it's still the best in class stabilization. So I shot most of my show on it, so it'd be a little disingenuous to not call it, the best of the year at that point when I've got access to so much, and I just keep going back to that camera over and over.
Well, we are definitely of like minds today. And everybody, look, we did not coordinate ahead of time. All I did was send Jordan a list of categories, but I actually don't have the same choice. I have a very similar choice. I'm going with the S1R2, which I think is much more underrated. This didn't make most lists. And similar to the Sony A7 V release, it just kind of had some controversy around the release where people got excited about one specific feature being a little off from what they expected. And I've been using this for photo and video, and it is just so good at both. The issue, to give it a little air, was that people were complaining about the rolling shutter being a little too much. You know what? If you're not using the high dynamic range mode, it's completely within the realm of normal use. Like, this is not extreme rolling shutter by any means. And the dynamic range is insane. There's some advantages. I prefer to use it for video over the S1 II as well. Like the fact that in log modes, you can go down to substantially lower ISOs. I think 200.
I think 250 is based on that, which is awesome.
Right. I mean, it's so helpful. It just means that if you're using an ND that is, let's say, 1 to 5 stops or something like that, you can just use that one ND all day without having to have a second one that you're replacing it with. Or and then just also the fact that the resolution of the photos is uncompromised. It's not that it's not enough with the S1 II. You know, what, 24, is that the number?
24, yep.
That's enough for a lot of work, but there's also a lot of work where you just need a bit more than that. Like, for me, I'm more comfortable if I crop down to 24 as my final, but I want to have a little extra room for making mistakes, for rotating the image and straightening it and making a few choices in post-production. So like, I would like to see it over 30 at least usually. And so the fact that this is, Jordan, what's the number? 40. How many megapixels is this camera that I'm holding? 45. You've got an enormous amount of flexibility. And then the fact that Lumix has had the whole lineup be completely in sync as well, physically, in terms of the hardware, it's just so excellent. Like, every little detail has improved with every iteration of Lumix hardware, and it's all the same at the same time. So the whole generation, you switch between the cameras, and there's no getting used to it. There's no figuring it out. They all work the same way. And when the firmware gets upgraded, they all get those same upgrades, which also firmware upgrades have been amazing. Huge feature adds, lots of little things that other companies just don't think about. It's not that it's the most perfect camera, but it's just, they cover so many bases that the bigger brands aren't thinking about, that I just can't help keep shooting it.
Yeah, I didn't include that because I think that came out just at the tail end of 2024 is why I didn't throw it on mine. But
sure, right.
As a hybrid, I think, it's extremely powerful, and it's like a super underrated camera. I'll be going on another podcast shortly to talk about that as an underrated camera. I love working with it. I did want to throw out one other quick honorable mention, which is the Canon R6 III, which is an absolutely wonderful hybrid photo video camera as well. We've given Canon a really hard time about just artificially holding a lot of features back, and they seem to have kind of broken that with this camera. They've given us, the open gate, the high resolution recording that we've been asking for, waveforms, where before it was only in the R5 II for some reason. So they've opened up a lot of the stuff that we've been asking for on the video side with it, and really kept the autofocus comparable to those very high-end flagship bodies as well. Like, this feels like a return to the classic Canon mid-range bodies that we used to have before, where ever since the R6, they seem to be kind of trying to scale it into a more consumer lineup. This is a nice return to form, where a working professional can grab this and tackle pretty much any photo or video project that they're given. And that resolution is, again, that 33 megapixel sweet spot that I really like.
Yeah, I haven't used it yet, but if I was still shooting entirely Canon, which I was for so many years, it probably would have been my pick of the year. And it does seem like it's giving people lesser reason to think they need the R5. I think for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I don't quite need that. Like, the R6 will now handle everything that I need it to, which is great. Next up, we've got best video camera.
So it's a tricky one for me because
this was my hard one. I wasn't sure.
There were a lot of people screaming at me for not picking the Canon C50 or the Nikon ZF, these kind of more affordable cinema first cameras. But I got to give it to the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. I was incredibly impressed. Like, it was a big step forward in terms of the image quality on that. Micro Four Thirds using a nice fast reading sensor. I think it's a variation of the same one in the GH7 that we both really like. But having that up in the air with a usable telephoto now, it's not the best imager on it, but it's just so nice to have that as an alternative option. And just how well the ability to fly these easily has gotten really good over the last few years, but now having like object avoidance in the dark, like we did our tests flying through kind of like a foresty area in pitch darkness with me walking around with a flashlight, and we're just getting constant pings whenever we're about to hit a branch or all kinds of stuff you can't even see. So it just really opens it up. Like I'm still not a comfortable drone operator, but with this, it kind of keeps you out of trouble enough that I would feel totally comfortable just taking this out and getting some like extremely good footage. And with that Micro Four Thirds sensor shooting aerials, I think that's kind of the sensor threshold. Like, I'm not like, man, I wish I had the Inspire 3 with the bigger Super 35 sensor. Like, Micro Four Thirds is great with that. It's got plenty of dynamic range. I don't really need shallow depth of field with drone work, and it gives me some nice slow-mo flexibility. So this is just, if you're a working pro, I don't think you're going to need more than this. Unless you're working on, you could still use this on a Hollywood film. Like, it's hitting that quality threshold at this point. And it's less expensive than I was expecting it to be. I mean, I know it's a problem for some of our American listeners and viewers because these are still tough to get your hands on. Some people have pulled it off, but yeah, it's unfortunate because this thing rocks.
I feel like I hit a bit of a plateau with my drone upgrades back with and get this, the DJI Mini Pro 3. Okay. I've got the Mavic 3 Pro. Is that I have to double check which models, but I'm not pulling it out anymore. Like, I also have the Air. I've got at least 3 DJI drones right now, and the only one that comes with me is the Mini 3. And I'm curious about the 5. Like, maybe I should update. The sensor did get larger, but I just kind of got satisfied with it. Yeah. And that's a nice feeling, actually, to not be shopping around for the new one all the time.
Yeah, I even use like a little fairly base level DJI Flip just for the odd establishing shots if it's not high contrast, because yeah, the quality's there, they're easy to use, and it's great for just cutting footage in. People really don't complain about the smaller chips on these, but yeah, I don't know where they're going to go from here. I think they're going to have a really tough time getting people to upgrade on the drones in the near future, which is great because Americans are going to have to be happy with the drones they already have.
Right, yeah, they're not going to be able to anyway. They're going to have to wait for the American drones to come out, which may never happen. So I decided my pick for the best video camera of the year, I just had to be realistic and choose what is actually the truth, even though sometimes I'm tempted to pick this every year, and that is the iPhone 17 Pro.
Right.
I thought maybe I'd get fancy and be, like, look at what Fuji's done. Like, there's some very interesting cameras that are out there right now. Even the Lumixes that we talked about are really excellent video cameras. But, man, the iPhone is just great now. It's kind of been great for a few years, but it keeps getting better. Now we have a extremely usable telephoto lens on it. Apple Log 2 is just a much more mature way of dealing with the color science of it now that they have their own Apple wide gamma color space they don't call it that, but they have, an Apple wide color space that they're using within it. They just keep pushing this forward in a way that they want to check off every professional feature on a major set, it's kind of funny to me. Like, it's not the things that they're most worried about aren't even necessarily the consumer features. Like, I would have wanted them to add something like HEVC for Apple Log 2 a lot sooner, or just different bitrate options, or have LUT previews in the Photos app. Like, there's a million ways they could have made this much more prosumer friendly, but instead they're like, no, we need this to be operable on every Hollywood set immediately. So those are going to be the features we prioritize, and they're getting there, and it is getting used as a result of that. So there are a lot of great cameras out there. I don't think that the iPhone is suddenly going to replace them all, but like, I shoot so much video on it. I keep shooting more on my iPhone every year. I just think it would almost be dishonest for me to not choose it as my favorite and kind of the best in some ways.
Yeah, I do feel like this puts the onus on us to do some educating, because I know so many people were like, oh, raw video on an iPhone. I can't wait to work with that. And I'm like, you do not want to.
Almost nobody wants
video
that.
on that. There's almost no application for it for most people. But yes, just to know that all the options are there. And I do think that 4x lens was a real breakthrough there, because I would never use my 3x or my 5x on the previous iPhones. And I use the 4 all the time right now. It's been great. And it's hit the image quality threshold as well, where a lot of the time, like, yeah, I've got my big camera for doing this fixed podcast setup here, but I could absolutely go and I've done it on the road where I just use my iPhone as my primary video camera for that, and it does a wonderful job. And people would be shocked if they knew how many inserts on our show are iPhone clips of B-roll or whatever, and that log is so flexible. I can match it to, I'm reviewing a new camera every week, but I can consistently get the iPhone to match to it. So it's very flexible. Yeah, it's just a great creative tool at this point. But I would love to see the basic camera app get expanded, because it is a pain to jump in and out of Blackmagic or Final Cut Camera, depending on the functionality that I need. So I'd like to get that in the default app.
They're missing some features too. Yeah, the default app still works better. It's especially stabilization is the big thing that bothers me, because it's not as good anywhere else.
Yeah, and a lot of the time I'm taking a picture and then like, oh, I'd love to grab video as well. It's counterintuitive for me to be then like, oh yeah, I have to use my action button and open up Final Cut Camera instead, because I want log instead of just like, hey, it'd be nice if I could hit the little red record button there in the exact same app. So I'd love to see that happen, but I think that's just the way Apple thinks. They don't want to complicate the interface, and every question we ask, they're like, yeah, there's a separate app for that. Go use the separate app. Yeah.
But then if that separate app's going to be Final Cut Camera, they need to work on it more. It's just it's lagging, it's not the same.
It really is.
It doesn't get the same attention as the default camera app for obvious reasons, but I don't know, it can be frustrating.
Well, even their spatial sound that they made such a huge deal of last year, that's not available in any third-party apps. Like, they've got to sort that out.
Next up is the best podcast of the year, which I had a hard time choosing a new one this year. I was so tempted to choose the same as before, but you go first.
Same.
Do you have anything I haven't heard of?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I've ever brought this up. I didn't listen to the last 11 years to double check, but there are some podcasts that are released in seasons, and I found a real limitation to that, which is your subscriptions are for a season. I just learned this a few days ago, because I was going deep into Rian Johnson land since I'd seen the new Knives Out movie. And his wife, Karina Longworth, does an incredible podcast called You Must Remember This about filmmaking in 1900 to 1999, with a real focus on like interesting scandals and stuff like that. It rules. And I realized I hadn't heard an episode of it in over a year. So I checked my subscriptions. I was subscribed to season 19, not season 20 that has come out. So I have been just absolutely binging this, where she's talking about some of the great directors of the 30s and 40s, what they wound up doing later in like the 60s and 70s when their style was totally out of date, and how they were trying to find work. And it's a bunch of angry old men, and it's just absolutely fascinating. So I cannot recommend You Must Remember This enough. And the previous seasons are fantastic, and it's great because it's not a timely show. Like when I found this, I think it was like 6-7 years ago, I just went back and listened to the entire back catalog, because they're just wonderful audio essays on the history of film. But yeah, new season is fantastic as always, and I'm happy that she's back in my earbuds again.
Nice. I've seen the artwork for that, but haven't listened to it. So, I mean, most of the time when you pick one, it's something I haven't listened to, which is great.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's why we're here, really. Or just to validate each other's same picks for every single category.
Exactly, for everything else. Just like, we are smart, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right?
We have great taste.
Tell me I am. Yeah, perfect. Mine's also I'm going to pick a movie podcast as well that I especially enjoyed for one specific series, but that's the Empire podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing I loved is when they went extremely deep after the Mission Impossible Final Reckoning release. And they have on the last few, but he's doing like 9-hour interviews with Macquarie after they're done wrapping, going into the most insane depth I've ever heard a director talk about any film. and just being so candid and casual about stuff. I'm just surprised how open he is. Like when he was talking about shooting, not Final Reckoning, what was the Mission Impossible before that was released during COVID, Dead Reckoning. He's talking about like, oh yeah, a lot of the ADR was done on iPhones, where like actors are at home, they couldn't get into the studio, so we just have them talking to their phones like close up, and that is all throughout the movie. I'm like, what? Like that's amazing. And there's just all these little nuggets like that I'm like, that's really, I just wish we heard more directors go into that kind of depth. So other episodes are great too, but those really deep interviews are fantastic.
And he's done those for every Mission Impossible that he's done. So go back and check them out. But I found it really fascinating this year because the new movie's a mess. Like it has some amazing action set pieces,
and you can tell
but
why
it's so cobbled together. And then listening to it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like these guys were scrambling, and on the previous movies, they were like, yeah, we scrambled and it all worked out in the end. And this is the one where it didn't, and the movie has weird tonal shifts all over the place. And like, why did that character just appear and disappear? Like it's a very disjointed movie, and then you hear the background of it, and it is fascinating, but it still got us two of the best action sequences in the movies this year with the submarine and the airplane. So maybe it was all worth it.
It's funny, even though I think it's one of the worst Mission Impossible movies on its own, like it holds up poorly. It got me the most obsessed with Mission Impossible. Like as soon as I saw it, I just went into such a deep dive, which I do every time one comes out, but more than ever, I just love Tom Cruise. I love this series. I love the way they make these movies. And even if they don't all hit, like not all my YouTube videos hit either. Like, that's what art and creative production is all about. Like you're experimenting, you're trying new things, and nobody is trying harder than they are. And I just love that about them, even if this specific one wasn't the best.
It's been people say it's one of the advantages of having children, but I really got to experience it this year. Is my son was old enough, like leading up to this, that we're like, all right, there's a new Mission Impossible coming out. These are some of the best action movies. We're going to watch them all. And I had a blast going through that with them. And then, it was funny when we went to the Final Reckoning to see him like kind of checking out during a lot of the plot points, but to have the big action sequences and see something that I love to see on the big screen with my kid after all that was awesome. So
that's great.
Yeah, big budget movies still have their place in my heart.
Well, this is a great transition to our next category. What was the best movie of the year? And I'm going to warn you, I don't have great choices this year.
Okay, so
it's my fault.
This is actually, I think last year you said you were going to step it up this year. So this is
maybe next year.
Letdown, Tyler. So I have what I like to call theatrical bias, because my two picks for best movie of the year are in two totally different directions, but they're both, I think I saw like 4 movies in the theater outside of kids' movies this year. Not a lot, but both of the movies that I saw that I'm going to mention, were absolutely far better experiences seeing them in a big room with lots of people. So the obvious one is One Battle After Another. It's an incredible movie. Like, it's so nice to see Paul Thomas Anderson really, like, I love every movie he's done basically, but to see him so dramatically shift in a different direction, like, yes, he's made a weird movie with great dialogue and a bunch of very funny scenes in this thing, but for him also to like drop the best action sequence of the year, like better than the Mission Impossible, I would say. There's an opening bank robbery car chase where you're like, where did this come from? Like, this is like Spielberg action directing followed up by like his own weird sense of humor and everything like that. And Leonardo DiCaprio in dirtbag mode is my favorite. Like, give me Wolf of Wall Street Leo any day, where he's just like a self-absorbed idiot. And he is definitely playing this in that direction as opposed to traditional leading man. It's just a great ride. And I was really happy to see, a lot of people were disappointed with how much money it made. Like, is this the end of big budget art house filmmaking? And people just kept going. Like, I went to see it 4 weeks after it came out, and it was still a pretty full theater, which was really cool to see and to hear, the big laughs and everything like that throughout it. And I overheard, some people beside us are like, oh yeah, I'm seeing this for the 3rd time. So it's nice to see a movie with those kind of legs doing very well. And it's killing it on streaming apparently. So again, that gives me hope for these kind of movies. But everybody seems to agree. Like, I'm pretty sure that's going to just sleepwalk to Best Picture at the Oscars this year. So my other one, totally out of left field, I'm going Canadian, Tyler, and we actually discussed this a few years ago. Blackberry, a movie I adored.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was my pick a few years ago, right?
Yeah, I think we both talked about how it's like an undersung gem. I had no idea the creators of that had been doing a little web series and Canadian TV series called Nirvana the Band.
Okay, so I've heard of that show.
Yes.
Isn't it Nirvana the Band, the show or something?
Yeah, Nirvana the Band, the show. And then this is Nirvana the Band, the show, the movie. They did a theatrical movie on it. And think of it as like an adorable Tenacious D. Like, it's a pianist and a singer, and they just improv their lyrics. And this is the basis of this show. And they have expanded this in such a huge way. It is like riffing on Back to the Future. There's huge time travel elements, massive stunts that they do in public, and it's almost like a Jackass, where they're just like, someone will walk by and be like, oh, what's going on? And in character, they'll just be like, you won't believe what's going on right now. And they're doing these on the streets of Toronto. There's time travel elements where they go back and they're mixing old footage they shot on DV cameras, and they're like, oh, we got to get the old camera. So they're recording new stuff on the old DV cameras to cross-cut it. It's baffling. Like, it's so fascinating, but it is the funniest movie I've seen in a long time. And I saw it at the Calgary International Film Festival with a packed house, like sold out show. And I think it's been like 15 years since I've seen a comedy sold out with like a huge group of people who are losing their minds at how like no one knew this thing was coming, and it's so unpredictable and crazy. And I just had probably my best night of this year was watching that with a big group. So it's gonna start streaming soon. The rights are so complicated because there's a lot of licensed music from Back to the Future and location releases and breaking into the CN Tower to jump off of it for set pieces that took a long time for them to legally clear, but it's happening. So as soon as it comes out on streaming, all my American buddies definitely check out Nirvana, the band, the movie, the show. It's awesome.
I'm going to watch both of those movies, and the fact that I didn't watch One Battle After Another is probably the reason I don't have a great pick. I mean, I know I will like it. Well, I don't. Who knows? But I'll probably like it. I love.
You're gonna like
Anderson. I just didn't get around to it. It just didn't happen. Somehow keeps not happening. And I also haven't watched the new Knives Out, and those both kind of feel like they would be my contenders. And so I don't know. I'm going to go quick and say Mission Impossible is my pick because I just didn't watch enough. Okay, moving on. What is our next category here? My phone just locked. Okay, next. I don't know if this will be quick or not, but best video game.
Well, I'm back into it, as we've discussed over the last little while, is we got a Switch for the family. So occasionally at night, if let's say there's some reality TV that I'm not super engaged in, I'm pulling out video games again. And the big thing I've noticed is I have a big gap in older games that I just never touched that are now getting re-released like crazy. So I was going to say Metroid Prime re-release, because I never played that when it first came out and it was a delight, but I'm not going to, because I'm a grown man, Tyler, but
I know you
they
are.
They re-released Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and I never played these on the Wii, and they're phenomenal. It's like I just like have a big smile on my face the whole time I'm playing it. And yeah, it's expensive, but they're two very big games. If you haven't played them before, then yeah, it's totally worth the investment. They still look great. They're super fun. And yeah, it gives you like a little bit of childlike glee every once in a while. So next year I'm going to play games for grownups. But for this year, I've just been like sitting there at night on my Switch playing Mario, and I'm loving it.
Nice. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows quite a bit, but I didn't play that much of it. I've mostly been watching my wife play it because she's gotten a lot further than me now. So instead, I'm going to choose what I really have been playing, which is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4.
Yeah.
I think last year I chose 1 and 2 because that was only a year ago. Like they did all the re-releases like right after each other, but it's just so good. I just keep playing it. Like, this is how a remake should be. They nailed it in every single way. I love those games because I can get in and out. I don't have to like commit to a long play session. You know, I'm pretty good at them at this point, so that makes me feel good when I play them. I just can't get enough.
Yeah, I loved 2, but I don't have a PlayStation 4. My family actually has one at like the family cabin, so I bought 1 and 2 to play up there. But yeah, 3 and 4 I saw as best played on Switch 2. I'm gonna get a Switch 2, so I'm just holding off on picking it up until then. But yeah, I've had a great time, and it's amazing how much muscle memory can carry over 15 years and how much is lacking as well. It's kind of frustrating for me to be like, I used to be able to do this, but
I have a muscle memory
so
that's
much
my
fun.
curse with it, that when you are doing spin tricks, the pros all recommend you should be spinning with your triggers.
Yes.
And I'm really used to doing it on the D-pad. Like I've just always done that, and I can't break the habit, but I know I could probably get higher scores if I switch.
Because I'm always doing the same spin tricks over and over because I'm always leaning left or right on that. Yeah, I got the same problem. So let's see if I can break that curse this year. But yeah, that pick rocks. I'm really looking forward to 3 and 4.
Nice. Yeah, I've got another good pick coming up. Next category is the best book of 2025. What do you got?
So I have got my buddy Ted Forbes dropped this earlier in the year. Visually Speaking.
Awesome. Wait,
I don't know
rotate
if you've seen
it for anybody watching the video
on.
so we can see.
Let me get away from the softbox there.
This is good reason to go on YouTube and watch this video just to see this cover. It's a nice cover.
Yeah, that's my friend Ted Forbes' hands there holding a Leica. But basically, this is a book about just getting you to think a little bit more about some of the aspects of making a really great photograph, whether it's compositionally or in terms of focus, focal length, things like that. But what I love about it is it's actually quite autobiographical. It doesn't read as like and then you should do this, and then you should do this. It's more like, well, I was shooting a lot this way, but then one year I started experimenting with this, or I talked to this photographer. Because one of the great things about Ted Forbes is he's had a bunch of legendary photographers on his YouTube show, and just how they've changed his mind to working in different ways. And I find that a much more inspiring and approachable way to talk about these things, as opposed to like, there's so many like traditional art books that are just going to talk at you, where this is more of a journey of how I came to see things in a slightly different way. And then he'll show his photographic results from before and after thinking about it. I find it very inspiring. And Ted's one of my favorite people, so to have a book written in his voice that's a substantial book with beautiful printing on it is great. There's a lot there, so definitely
tell
check
me the
it
title
out.
one more time so I remember.
It is
it looks
Visually
awesome.
Speaking.
Great. I'm definitely going to check that out. I like it.
Yeah, I know the camera store in Calgary has stock on it, but yeah, huge recommend.
I really liked my favorite, should go without saying, but my favorite book of the year was definitely The Art of Spending Money. I don't have the physical copy to hold up in the video, so I'll just hold up the audiobook that I listened to. It's by Morgan Housel, same author as I think a previous pick that I had, which was The Psychology of Money. But it really got me thinking about like, what do we want money for? Like a lot of these things are things we all think about ourselves. Like it's natural to think about like, what are the real goals and objectives in life? What's actually important? And framing that in terms of, yes, of course. But it's like, in terms of your career as well, it's like, okay, you're spending all this time working really hard so that the number in your bank account gets higher. But then what? What are the things you can buy that will actually improve your quality of life? And like, how do you assess whether you are better off after spending the money versus not? And I think cameras are actually a great example of this, because often you are not taking any better photos with that new camera that you just dropped a lot of money on than you were with your old camera. So finding that relationship of like, what is the thing that is bringing you satisfaction after the money gets spent, and what is, just throwing good money after bad, that, you go and buy the thing and you feel exactly the same a week later and forget you even bought it. So yeah, I just found it a really thoughtful conversation of that.
That would be very useful for me, because my 4K HDR disc habit is problematic at this point.
And you say 4K because you have 4,000 of them.
Exactly, yes.
Next, we've got the final category of the day. What was your best camera accessory of the year?
So I'm going to go a little niche off the top. Is just a small one that I definitely recommend if you're doing any filmmaking. This is the Condor Blue matte box, which is attached via the lens. I've only ever used rail-mounted matte boxes in the past. Yeah. And yeah, with a zoom lens, they're a huge pain. And I like to shoot, handheld or on a monopod. They're just too big. You have to use a rig. What I really like with the Condor Blue solution is you can just attach it right to the front lens element, works with zooms. It is a bit of a problem if you're flipping cinema primes around, because you will have to take the whole thing on and off. But it is so incredibly well built. I was just in Alaska where we had some Airy matte boxes there that are the same kind of system. And honestly, the Condor Blue felt a little better. Quite affordable, and their filters are excellent as well. It's just one of those things that I was like, man, this thing is rock solid. So I wanted to shout it out quickly. But for the weird, I got to bring up the Lano. This is a 4-in-1. It is a camera, battery charger, card reader, power brick / battery and card storage unit.
That was a lot. If you got to spell this out for everybody too. How do you spell
Lano? They don't have a website. What I would have guessed. They're only on Amazon. Okay. You just find them there. But they reached out and said, you want to look at this? And we said, yeah, that's kind of interesting. And I have actually been using it quite a bit. And when you turn the light on the front to check your charging status, it looks like a camera lens. Isn't that cute?
So I'm just pulling this up right now. You're kind of there's so much to catch up on here.
Yeah,
we got a battery charger. Say it again. Yeah, what does it do? It's a battery charger. I see that.
So yeah, it's a battery charger. Pop it in, charge them up. It's also got a SD card slot in it for you to charge your cards. You can also use it as just a regular power delivery device, USB-C out on it, with I believe it's 2,500. I don't remember the watt hours, and it's very small writing. And then you can also use it as battery and card storage as well. You've got 2 card slots in there and a battery slot in it. So
that's just really cool.
Multifunction. Does it, like, I haven't found anything to complain about, and it does everything that it's advertised to do. So I think this is kind of a
battery system did you get it for? Like, are they available for all cameras?
The K22 Panasonics. Chris has it for Sony Zs. You can also get it for Canon LP6s. And I think they're doing it for Nikon 15s as well. So basically all the major battery types there are covered.
That sounds really great. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, I'm probably just going to buy this.
Yeah. I recommend it. Works really well.
Nice.
When you're traveling.
Yeah, you just did. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And I did butt up against, when I was in Costa Rica on a trip recently, we had massive amounts of data to dump, and they were running SD cards. So even though I have a MacBook Pro with an SD card reader, having a second SD card reader was actually hugely beneficial there, and I never would have thought about that. So I was just glad that I had my battery charger sitting over there to work as a second one. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, mine is, mine just came in the mail the other day, so maybe recency bias here, but I do love it, and I've been searching for this kind of thing for a long time. If anybody knows, I spend a lot of time looking for the perfect small flash, because for some reason, they just have not made that many of them. Like, there are options out there, but it's especially been smaller independent companies tackling it. And all of the ones I bought so far have had problems. And now I think we've got the best one so far. This is the Godox IT30 Pro. And it is very compact for a flash. Like, when you look at it, it looks like it's just the flash unit, right? Like, a lot of flashes will have a lower battery compartment and the flash sits on top. And that format, that size, most of all makes it less pocketable. That's what drives me crazy about it. And it also changes the weight distribution of your camera, so that once it's on top, all of a sudden your camera is falling forward. Yeah. There is somewhat of a good reason for that as well, because you want some height separation so that the flash clears the lens. Otherwise, you'll get the shadow of your lens. And they've solved that particular problem with a small $20 add-on that's called the what's the model number here? The TR adapter, sorry. O is the format that I bought it for, which is for the Lumix cameras. And it just raises the flash up above your camera so that it can clear any lens. So, this is the smallest professional feeling flash I've ever worked with. Like, I've had small flashes, I've had professional flashes, and this is an amazing balance in between. It's kind of what I feel like I've been waiting for. I'm really glad to be able to start using it.
Is that TTL or is it just manual output on it?
And it's TTL. Yeah, it's full TTL, which is great. And they have it for, Sony, Canon.
Oh, Godox has it for every mount. Yeah.
Lumix. Yeah. Except, so the thing is, I'd hoped I'd be able to use this for my Leica, but because like the L system, I don't really remember what the Leica flash system is because nobody seems to make anything for it.
Yeah.
But I can't put it on the Q3. This would be perfect on the Q3. And they don't make any that work with it. And there's like no good options with it. So I can use it manually, but the TTL doesn't work. So Godox, if you're listening, please create a Leica specific model and I will buy another one. Because again, they're like $100. That is a very good price for an excellent flash that has like great capacity, good throw. Usually you don't need the power of a bigger flash. And actually, if I'd have a runner up here, I bought another Godox this year. I get the model name wrong all the time. The V100 Pro.
Their model numbers are impossible.
Because it used to be the V1 Pro, and I actually accidentally bought a flash I already owned because I bought the V1 Pro again. And I was like, well, no, wait, I wanted the 100. So yeah, V100 Pro, and it has a 100-watt output, way faster recycling time. It has like a secondary flash, so if you're pointing it up at the ceiling, you still can have a direct flash in addition to that. Plug it directly in through USB for charging. It's like double the output at the same settings as the previous V1 Pro. So that means you can usually run it at very low settings. And also the whole Godox ecosystem talks to each other. So I'm going to start traveling with both of these, and the IT30 can now be the transmitter to trigger.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay, that's great.
Because right now I'm already traveling with the transmitter, and I'll put the X100 on a little stand and put it off at a distance, and then I can have a remote flash system. But now I can travel with two flashes. They both can trigger each other. They can communicate any way that you want. I mean, Godox is just killing it. Like their flash system is really amazing right now.
Yeah. I haven't grabbed any of their new stuff this year, but I just found it's a very well thought out system. And that rocks, because I'm always looking for I just want a backlight. I don't care if it's a little hard. I just need some separation. So having a really small light like that would be awesome instead of dragging out another strobe head.
Especially for people starting out, it can be daunting to be like, okay, I want to get into flash photography, but I don't want to spend $500. A lot of flashes are quite expensive, and this is the one to get. 100% just start with this. Even if you grow out of it, it will take you such a long way, and the price is right.
And the on-camera flash look is so hot right now too. If your clients ask for it, you could deliver it.
Especially with the leaf shutter. So I'm gonna throw this on top of the Hasselblad, and that's so much of why I've loved the Hasselblad too. It's so fun. Like you can just set your shutter to any speed, and now you're outside.
A second. I don't care. Whatever.
And the V100 it does global shutter as well. So even at those faster sync speeds, you're not getting any, because your flash can potentially not keep up with the actual shutters. So even on Leaf systems, both the IT30 and the V100 can handle whatever you throw at them, which is amazing.
I was struggling with the 4,000th of a second on some of the new Hasselblad lenses, finding a flash that would sync. So that's great to have that flexibility. Or if you got an A9 III, it was a constant battle to get strobes to work with that at the fastest syncs. Yeah.
This was a good year, except for my not watching movies, but we covered a lot of ground, and just so glad to have you back again, Jordan.
I had a strong pick for every category. I think that's the first
you
time.
Did have
Usually
a
I have
pick.
to
Does that mean you won the gear of the year? I think you did.
I think we're now making this competitive.
If anybody wants to check out everything that Jordan does, head over to Petapixel, because you probably already watch it. I'm sure you are very aware, but thanks for spending your time with me, Jordan.
Some big stuff coming out in the next couple months. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad we got to see each other this year at the Apple launch. That was really nice.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll bump into each other another few times on some other press stuff. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah. Happy New Year.